So this is our big revision mind map on research methods, yeah, to help you revise the whole topic of research methods, yeah. First off, let's start off with ethics. In all your research, you must not damage or endanger yourself or others whilst you're doing your research. E.g., your questions must not upset the subject, yeah. That's ethics, very simply, you know. So you have problems, ethical problems studying school children, ethical problems about keeping things confidential, anonymous, ethics, yeah? Let's start with the more direct, quantitative methods. Quantitative, produce numbers, yeah? There's three main ones. There's content analysis for doing the mass media, but more importantly, there's interviews, structured interviews, and questionnaires, yeah? What's good about both of them? They're quick, easy to quantify, and they're cheap or even free. What's bad about them? You might get a poor response, they're restrictive, and there's no follow-up, and people can misunderstand the questions. How do you solve that last problem, misunderstanding? You do a pilot. You ask a few people first to check they all understand the questions. Sampling. You must ask the right people. If you ask the wrong people, you get the wrong answer. So sampling are the people you choose to study, and you have to choose the right people. The best thing to do is to get a representative sample. If your sample is representative, your findings will be good, reliable, and therefore valid. Three types of sampling: random, picking at random, like a bingo; stratified, you put them into groups, and then a random sample; and a snowball sample, where you ask a person, once you ask them if they know anybody, and therefore the sample gets big as it goes along. Excuse me, give it all this. Don't want that, don't want that, don't want that, don't want that. Let's have a quick talk while we're here. I've forgotten about this. Longitudinal studies. Yeah? Explain it. You pick a date, all the children born that day, or date, or couple of dates. That's your several thousand people. It's a fantastic method. You get a representative sample that way. Then you can see, you follow them through the next 18 years, maybe 16 years of their lives, and you see the change over time. You get to see the patterns. You get to see what makes them change, what factors are affecting them. Yeah? It's the Rolls Royce of research methods. Very expensive, but very good. The most famous piece of research was done by a guy called J.W.B. Douglas. Then we have secondary sources. Yeah? Most usefully, we have official stats. They're useful because they are free, and there's tons and tons of it. The problem is, well, you've got to be aware of what you're counting. So crime is the best example. We have loads of crime data, it's all over for us, but because of recording and reporting issues, it's not terribly reliable. Yeah? It's a secondary source. What's a primary source? You collect the data. A secondary source, somebody else collects it. We also have secondary historical data. History books, old media, old newspapers, novels, diaries. These are useful for studying the past and comparing them to our culture today. We don't have a time machine, we have to use these instead. Moving on. Qualitative research. Yeah? Research you cannot turn to numbers. You don't study many people, but the quality is high. You could use an unstructured interview where you use open questions. What do you think about this? What's your life like? But more importantly, there's participant observation, PO for short. Definition, actually watching people go about their lives, which makes it much more valid. There's two types, overt and covert. Overt, they know you're watching them. Covert, undercover, they don't. What's good about this? You're seeing reality. You're seeing their behaviour, particularly if you're doing hard-to-study groups. Yeah? If you're an interpretivist sociologist, you'd use this method. What's bad about it? It is very slow and therefore expensive. And in fact, if it's all overt, you might affect their behaviour. I'll call this, do you remember? The Hawthorne effect. Plus, the results are impossible to quantify, and you can't make generalisations because you're simply not studying enough people.